Hello everyone, this is Zelric. Welcome to the channel. I hope you've had a great day so far, or night, or whatever time it is. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the big changes I want to see in the patch for my build specifically. The Tactician Artillery Ballista build. This build focuses on using the Artillery Ballista as your main source of clear and your main source of damage in general. We do use Siege Cascade also in conjunction with it, but I feel like Siege Cascade basically just turns you into an Artillery Ballista because it's the same animation. It really is. You just fire up in the air instead of a artillery ballista. My damage is kind of low, as you can see. This is level 88, and it's about 463k. It's good enough to do T15s and some the lowest difficulty bosses, but we obviously need better. My initial plan was to make an Ignite base build when I first made this build. I think I've said this in some previous videos, and that's basically where I want to go with the build. I would love to have a dot-based build that's actually viable, but right now it's just not, because fire damage just doesn't have the... Especially on this side of the tree, you don't get elemental damage as much on this side of the tree. You get a lot of projectile-based damage, which is fine, but I don't know. Like I want more ways of scaling ailment on this side of the tree and not have it be feeling locked to this side of the tree. And I could probably change this whole around and make it viable, but I just don't feel like Ignite is viable at all, especially on the bottom, more martial side of the tree, where like the strength dex side of the tree. I just don't feel it is possible right now. So my biggest want to make this into the build I wanted to have it be is just Ignite buffs in general, whatever form that takes. Hopefully a formula change, but barring that, just straight damage number buffs to fire-based damage. Obviously, a skill number buff to the actual skill itself would go a long way. Sorry, let me adjust the camera a little bit. I feel like it's off. Anyway, some straight damage would be nice, especially to the skill itself. I think that is coming in terms of what GGG has said is coming. They've said that they're going to be buffing skills that feel like combos right now, and I do feel like this skill falls in that category. I don't feel like they ever thought people would want to use Artillery Ballista as its own main skill. It doesn't feel like they did, because like you just don't get that much totem-based builds in this, and you don't get that much support for it on the tree. So I want more support for ballistas on the tree, or totems on the tree. I know there's a little bit, but I would love more. I would love more fire-based support on the tree for attack-based builds. And specifically for the Tactician, while I do like it, I think that this is not strong enough. I've been using it, and even with the change that made it to where Siege Cascade can be used as a main skill to fire off your others, the buff of 30% more skill speed, while it is amazing, it's only giving me 77k worth of DPS. And I'm losing the autonomy of actually being able to place my totems and move about the arena, and be able to do my own thing while my totems do the damage. I'm losing that for less than 100k DPS on an almost fully built character. It doesn't seem like it's a worthwhile trade-off, but there really isn't anything else on the offensive side. Now, just like in PoE 1, there are absolutely more defensive-based ascendancies that work really well, but even with that, the best defense this ascendancy gives you is a solid plan, which gives you persistent buffs, have less reservation efficiency, or basically take away less of your spirit, so you get more use of your spirit overall. And then pinning enemies constantly, and having it be a freeze instead of just like a stall, like where they could still fire on regular pins, but on Tactician's pins you can fully stop them, which is nice, and it is a great defensive layer, especially for the build where we turn it into an offense because of Siege Cascade. But The only other defense we have is stay light, use cover, and polish that gear, and and a lot of people use it because there's no other good options. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there's just no other good options. Watch How I Do It doesn't work with totem builds, and I don't feel like a lot of people are using it at all because nobody really uses this ascendancy as far as I can see with minions because there's just not the only node that even helps with it is Watch How I Do It. So everything else is supposed to be defensive, but your only defense sucks. Like, it's okay, but it's not like a point worthy. I feel like the tactician is just too weak right now. It needs something more, something oomph. The pin is nice, but it's not good enough on its own to have this ascendancy have its identity really stand out to other people. And I feel like since they've leaned into this whole, like, he's a strategist that stands in the background and commands other people and other things to do it, leaning more into this idea that he should be like a minion-based, attack-based build with totems and stuff like that is awesome. It's just when you do that, you get my build, which is lackluster at best and not anywhere near meta. It's just fun to play. And I will say that it is fun to play to me, but a lot of people go based on numbers, and numbers just aren't there for it. Now, I could be suboptimally doing things on this tree for sure, but at the end of the day, I don't feel like what I could do would really do much. I could change everything around and put all the best gear on the game, and I'd still only get like maybe double the DPS I currently have. Like, I could see a cap out of about 1 million if I really change things around and go to like a crit-based build. But then I'd have to change the entire tree and everything, and it's just not viable. And I didn't really want to do a crit-based build. And right now, crit is king unless you're doing some kind of dot build, which dot builds aren't in either. So I want Ignite and ailments to be buffed. I want dot-based builds to be buffed. I want, specifically for this, fire-based damage and more availability on the tree for increases to totem-based damage and ballista-based damage. That way, and just damage in general to crossbows, because in general I don't feel like crossbows are still being used at all. They're fun, but they just feel clunky a little bit, and they need more damage to make that clunkiness feel like it's worth it for a lot of people. And yeah, ultimately, obviously I want the main things that everybody else wants too. I would love to see some movement speed based stuff come into the game better, like in whatever form they plan. Hopefully it's good, but we obviously need more movement speed. The monsters need to probably move a little bit slower, although I don't think that's going to happen. And we need more armor and evasion buffs. Armor specifically in life, because that's another thing. Your defense is literally armor and evasion. Like, evasion's alright, but it's not enough, and armor sucks ass. So, like, this just doesn't do anything. And this makes your armor okay, but it's basically saying, yeah, you can get this and get decent value out of pretty minimal investment. But why is a whole 4-point ascendancy node saying, yeah, if you didn't invest in the armor, pick this and you can use it. And even then, you have to invest a pretty decent penny to get a pretty good use out of this. So, like, it feels like it's conflicting with itself. But it's the only other node that's even useful. So everybody goes to polish that gear. Like, nobody really ever gets whoever pays best, unless you're playing a build that uses banners specifically, which not very many people do. Watch How I Do It, I haven't seen anybody really use. But then again, I haven't been paying attention to the minion-based side of builds that people are using on Tactician. And Cannons Ready has too much of a downside. Just does. The fact that you can use multiple ballistas is nice. I like that little hack that Zizarin made me aware of when I watched one of his videos on his Artillery Ballista build for hardcore. It helps a lot. It does, especially, you know. And this DPS isn't necessarily taking into consideration that a lot of the time multiple siege cascades are coming down, or multiple of the projectiles from your artillery ballistas are coming down. So this seems a little lower than it probably really is. But yeah, ultimately I don't really want to ramble. I want to see major changes to the mercenary in general. I want to see major changes to the tree itself. Hopefully, just more damage and more armor based stuff changes. Armor needs a formula change. So does the dot based ailments. I feel like there's just a couple formulas that were made and just off. They feel off, I guess is the best way to put it. So thank you if you stuck around for all my rambling today. I appreciate it. If you want to hear me go into even more depth about my build, then subscribe and like the video. I'll definitely be making changes to this once the patch releases and we see what changes are actually headed to the game. I can't wait for the second season. Thank you so much for watching the video, and have a wonderful day, guys. Peace out.